second, and I will share my screen. That one. So I think everybody should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so welcome to our session, and thanks, Raz. As he was saying, we are talking about Power Platform today, working using Power Platform with finance and operations, of course, because that's what we do. And Juan and I have prepared something to show that we can extend some of the functionalities of the ERP using Power Platform with no development or a little development. Almost with no development. And so who we are. Go on, Juan.
Okay, well, my name is Juan Antonio Tomás. I'm from Spain, and I'm a technical lead at Axasure for the last 6 years. And from October 2021, I think it was, no, 2020, I don't remember. Yeah. 2020, I am MVP in Microsoft Business Applications category, as well as Adria. And as Ras has said, we have a podcast in which we used to talk about technical stuff regarding XPP, X++, and technical stuff of finance and operations. And if somebody of you understand Spanish, you can follow us in xpp.dev and hear us talking about our things. And well, I have a blog, is jjthomas.com, in which I used to write normally something related with finance and operations, and that's all.
My name is Adrian. I'm also working at Axasure as a Dynamics 365 developer, finance and operations developer. For the last 4 years, I've been here. So I work with Juan. And well, I've got a blog also. You can read my articles about X++ and Azure DevOps on ariste.info. And well, yeah, the podcast, and we are dressed as magicians today.
Because we are going to do some magic to go with F&O and Power Platform.
So, okay. So, of course, we are finance and operations developers, but today we are talking about the Power Platform. So in case anyone doesn't know what Power Platform is, which would be a bit strange right now, because Microsoft is investing a lot of efforts into making it grow, and there's a lot of people using it. So Power Platform, at least for finance and operations people, is allowing us to extend the functionality without customizations in the ERP. Most of the times without customizations. Sometimes you need to maybe duplicate data entities, or you can add extra functionality, creating additional OData actions, or if you have custom tables or custom data, you can create new data entities. And well, it's not only the data entities, but our platform is based on Dataverse, which is something that most of the people also will know what it is. So we won't explain what's Dataverse, right? And regarding Dataverse, from F&O, we've got 2 major integrations out of the box with Dataverse. One is dual write, and the other one is virtual entities, which I think we are using both today.
Yeah, we are using both dual-write virtual entities, and we are using as well the standard connector to write data into FNO from Power Automate. Because today in the Power Platform, as you know, we have the Power Apps, the Power Automate, the Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents, but we have prepared this session working with two of them that are Power Apps and Power Automate, and of course working with Dataverse.
If you want to continue.
Yeah, sure. The first, this is going to be later. The first part we are using to work with the data of finance and operations inside of Power Platform in order to extend the functionality that we already have in FNO without the need of develop or write code at least, is dual-write. Dual-write is an out-of-the-box tool that allows us to synchronize data from FNO to Dataverse and from Dataverse to FNO. It is based on doing some table mapping with the public entities that we have in FNO. If there is somebody that don't know about FNO, an entity in FNO is not the same that an entity, or well, now it's a table in Dataverse. An entity is a public view that allow us to see the data from FNO in a more easy way, let's say. For example, when we are working with customers in FNO, the data model is quite complex, and we have an entity that can be public or not. In this case, is public, and this entity allows us to see all the info related to the customer in just one view. So this is what we are using to sync data from FNO to Dataverse, and in the other way from Dataverse to FNO. This is a way to synchronize the data in a real time. We always have said that is near real time, but I think that now it's real time because it's transactional. So if you are writing in FNO, for example, updating a customer and it fails in Dataverse, or you are trying to create an account in Dataverse and some validation from FNO throws an error, this error is going to be reflected in Dataverse, so you cannot continue with the work. And in this case, we are with dual-write, we are going to have always the data in FNO and in Dataverse. So the data is kind of duplicated in both sides. Because of the price of the storage on the cloud, you have to think about it, because it's not the same consume the data directly from FNO, as we are going to see with virtual entities, than duplicate. But you have to think about it and about the licensing. Licensing is okay, the word in English? Yeah. And the licensing, because if you work with virtual entities, you need a license in FNO. So you cannot say, okay, I'm going to use always dual-write, I'm going to use always virtual entities. And in our example, you will see that we are, for example, syncing data from the company, the data area, with dual-write, but then we are working with virtual entities as well. So you have to think in which is the best solution for you, depending of the situation you have with the data.
And well, then we have virtual entities, which are different from dual-write because data for virtual entities is not present in the Dataverse database. it's only a representation of the data that exists on the ERP. I prefer virtual entities much than dual write. I love virtual entities. They also work near real time. In the end, what virtual entities are doing is consulting the the data entities that exist on FNO via OData. So it's doing calls to the ERP, also based on the public data entities as dual write. And since they appeared for FNO, we can now use the Power Apps or Dataverse connectors that exist on Flow, for example, on Power Automate. We can use the Dataverse connectors to update data on the ERP. Before that, we had, and we can still do it, we had to use the standard connectors for the ERP. But there are some cases which is, I think, a bit easier to use the Dataverse connectors, and both work well. So again, it depends on what you need to do, and you need to think about what you want to do and how you want to do it. And virtual entities is something that has existed on the CRM or Dataverse side for a long time. And now they also support the CRUD operations. You can create data, delete it, update it. And that's great. I think it's something that it couldn't be done before on Dataverse entities or CRM entities. And you can also execute all data actions from the data entities from the ERP using the connectors of Power Apps or Dataverse, Dataverse connectors. And something that we haven't mentioned, Juan, I think it's that some time ago, I don't remember exactly how much, but setting up both dual write and virtual entities was a manual task.
Yeah.
You had to create a lot of applications, well, not a lot, but I think 2 application IDs for the ERP and 2 application IDs on the Dataverse side to link the environments. But since I think it's like 1 year ago, more or less, there's a new option on LCS that when you deploy a new environment, you've got a checkbox, you select it, and after deploying the environment for the ERP, it will deploy a Dataverse environment. And then there's a button where you just click that button and it will set up the link between the ERP and CRM and Dataverse environment. Automatically will create all the users, everything that's needed, and it's just clicking a button. That's great because if you forgot to create an application ID before that, or maybe didn't grant the right permissions on the ERP or on Dataverse side, there were errors and sometimes troubleshooting it. If you don't know what you're doing on Dataverse is hard.
And we don't know.
That's also you have to, if you are an FNO person and just an FNO person, you need to think that you have to learn some Dataverse things from now on, because there's more and more investments on Dataverse for the ERP. For example, also the microservices work or are stored in Dataverse. But knowing a bit of administration in Dataverse is good for us, because I guess that in the future we will work with even more things in Dataverse.
Just one thing, if you are working with an existing CRM or Power Platform environment and you want to link it with FNO, right now you have to open a support ticket because it is not available to link between existing environments. But Microsoft is working to allow us to link those environments without the need of open a support ticket. Just that.
Sorry. So what does our powered app do?
This is the magic.
This is the magic.
So
yeah.
here we have created a very simple Power App. This Power App allows us to get all the product information from the finance and operations side. So we connect. Well, first step is to select the company. For CRM people, the ERP, the F&O side is a multi-company ERP, of course. And the data area ID, that is the company code of the ERP, is a key field that exists in almost all tables inside of the F&O data model. This is when you work with combined projects, you are working with ERP and CRM, and you have to, for example, work with dual write. We have seen that this is something quite new inside of CRM, and you have to train people that used to work with CRM to understand this key, because it doesn't exist in CRM. So the first step is to select the company in which we are going to work. After that, we can select all the products from product information module, the release products. So we're going to have in our Power Apps a list,
Lookup or drop down.
Yeah, a list with the product we are getting from F&O. This is get with a virtual entity. So one of the things you have to take in account is that if I'm right, some of the functions in Power Apps that work with delegation cannot be, well, can be used, but they are not delegating on virtual entities. So if you have a huge amount of products, probably you are going to get just a small piece of them. So when you're doing a search or filter or so against the product list, maybe you are not getting all the info. What can we do if this happen? Maybe the solution could be work with dual write. I know Adriano doesn't like it, but maybe in this case, if you have a high amount of products, the solution is to sync the product information in database with dual write, and then you can work against a regular entity, so you can do everything you need. Once we have the product list, we are going to select one and take a photo to the product. Okay, so once we have the photo is when the magic occurs, and we are going to send the image within the rest of the product info to finance and operations. After that, we will see that in the release product form, we are going to be able to see the picture we have just done with the mobile. So with this solution, we are extending the finance and operation solution or extending the functionality without the need of develop. But well, in this case that we are working with release product, we have need to do something because the entity was not public. So if the entity is not public, you cannot work with it in dual write or virtual entity. The solution is quite easy. It's just to duplicate the entity and put it as public, change the public collection, well, put the public collection names and change the label and a little bit more. But does it mean that you will need to develop, because it's not developed, but you need Visual Studio and a developer to do that? No, you could do with, for example, with DMF, with Data Migration Framework. You can create a data package and you can upload it with the the DMF with recurring integrations or so. But we have preferred in this case to duplicate the entity and work with it with virtual entities in Dataverse. So I think it's better to show the solution now, to do a demo.
Yes. Will you share the phone screen or?
Yeah, can.
Okay.
Okay. First, dual write. If there is somebody that doesn't know how dual write is set up, this is finance and operation for the non-F&O people. And we have here the data management workspace and the dual write tile. Once it is loaded, we are going to see here the go ahead.
Oh, this is loading. So this is a frame of the ERP, and what is being loaded inside it is the data integrator. So if somebody thinks, oh, this looks like the data integrator, it's because it's the data integrator.
Yeah. The difference with data integrator, I think, is because this is bidirectional, and the data integrator is just from one side. So in this example, we have synchronized the companies, the legal entities of F&O. So right now, we have all the name and legal entity ID inside of Dataverse. Okay, this is quite easy to do. It's just you have just to select the mapping and click on run, and you can do an initial sync, because dual write works in both ways. You can do an initial sync, and what it does is to create an export project in DMF and export all the info from the entity. Then it imports the data into Dataverse, but I have no idea how. You know, Adri?
Yes, I think it's calling the web API, and it's doing a post call for each record it's synchronizing.
Okay. And then once the mapping or the status is running, each time you write in one side is sent to the other through OData. It's not with the DMF at the initial sync. So for our example, we have here running the companies. So in Dataverse, we are going to have all the companies of the F&O system. And the other thing is the virtual entities. Here we are, sorry, it's in Spanish. I didn't aware about that, but well, we can go to the advanced configuration and administration. And here we have
the on the advanced find on top
yeah,
right.
But I know how to go from here.
Okay.
So once here in virtual entity, we go to the filter.
This is something that's a bit. This is the way of enabling the virtual entities, and it's a bit strange to do it like that. It's available. I think it's available financial operations.
Yeah, here it is. Because
entities.
all the public entities that we have in F&O are available to work with them as virtual entities. But first of all, we have to mark them up, to enable. Thank you. And here I'm going to show just the visible ones to make it faster. So if you don't put the last filter, you will obtain here a list with all the public entities from F&O. So you can make them visible to Power Apps or Power Platform in general. And those are the entities from F&O that we have visible, and we can work with them as data source of the Power Apps or or Power Automate or whatever. Here is, I don't know where is this one. No, the EcoRes product document attachment entity. Yeah, there one. So we are working with release product, and these are the entities we are using in the Power App. So once the entities are available, we can go to the app itself. So here is the app we have created.
It's a Canvas app.
Yep. We are not expert in Power App development, so if you see any bad practice or so, I'm so sorry. But it works. Okay. So first screen, we have here a welcome image, and in this combo box, we are getting the companies that we have in F&O. So in the next step, we will be able to filter by that company. This is the first data we are using thanks to dual write. Okay. This is quite easy. And when I click on continue, right now I'm doing a filter into the virtual entity with the name release product B2. All the entities, all the virtual entities from F&O have this MSERP between brackets. So it's a easy way to find them. Okay, so here we are getting all the release product of the company we have selected here. Once we have it, here we have a gallery with the info of the company. Here is the search with this text box. This is quite easy as well. Then we can do a photo of the item we have selected previously. And the last step is to send it to F&O. How? With Power Automate. Well, aquí no, sorry, this is Spanish. Here, I prepare the data to send as JSON info to the Power Automate called AX send product image. If somebody don't know how to call a Power Automate from the Power App, is just you need to have the Power Automate created and saved inside of the same environment, of course. And after that, you just have to go to Action and click here, and the Power Automate available appear here. So you have to click and put the parameters you need. Anything you want to add?
No.
No? Okay. So basically, this is the Power App. You can make it prettier or not. Right now, it's quite pretty because yeah, but because we have Eva, and she has helped me to do it prettier, because the first version wasn't as pretty as that. So once we send the info to the Power Automate, I can go from here. Yes. What we do is the following. So we have worked, at this point, we have been working with dual write to get the companies and with virtual entities to get the products. And now we are going to work with the standard connector from Power Platform to Finance and Operations. So here we have the flow of Power Automate that is triggered from the Power App. We get here the content we are sending from the Power App, that is the JSON with the info of the product and the image. And here, maybe there is a better solution to do that, but I didn't know it. So what we are doing is to create two variables, because in this how to say in English, property of the JSON, we are receiving the info, the binary of the info of the image, but we have to treat it to get just the JSON, because we are working with the public entities, and when we are sending the info to finance and operations in OData, we have to send the JSON, and it automatically get that JSON and convert it to a binary or to the file he needs to work with the images. So here, when I receive the info, I have to apply, I think it's not visible, but I have to put the base 64 sorry,
64.
and the code data URI, and inside here we have to put the image. Okay, if I put this on the field, it's not working. I don't know why. But if I apply the function in a variable, I can put the result on this place and it works. I don't know why, but it's how it works. So first you have to take the image, because here I cannot do in just one step, because if I put the here the code, no, sorry, come on, the code data URI, and I go to the dynamic content, I cannot see the image of the JSON. So first I put the image of the JSON here, and then I can use that variable to decode it. And after that, I can take that JSON and send it to FNO. It's quite tricky, but it works well.
Yes, when working with JSON on Power Automates, a lot of times you need to parse it in different steps, as we have done here, because you need to have the value first inside the variable. You can't parse it.
Your microphone has failed, I think.
Okay.
Repeat. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I was saying that when you work with JSON on Power Automates, you need to extract the data from the JSON first into variables, because otherwise you can, most of the times you cannot parse the JSON in the destination fields of the connector. So it's best to get the JSON first inside the variable. You get the value inside that variable, and then you can use the variable in the connector. And it's always, I think, safer. And then if it fails, you see the content inside the variable and why it's failing. And it's like when we debug, getting values inside variables instead of copying the values directly with methods. It's easier to see what's inside a variable than just throwing it to the result.
Yes. And at that moment, that's all. I don't know if I missed something before demo it. Okay, so here, as I said, we are using the connector, the standard connector, in which you have to put the URL of the environment of FNO you are working on. You have to put the data entity name. Sorry, it's in Spanish. As you can see here, is not a standard data entity, it's a data entity we have created because we have had to duplicate it in order to have it public. As I said, you can work with it with recurring integrations with DMF in order to upload it through an Excel file, through through a data packet, but in this case, it was more easy to do it in this way. Then we are putting here the name of the product to identify the product we are sending the info of the picture to. We have to put the company of the product, and the company of the attachment we are creating. We are creating a docuref with the image and so on. Then we put the name, the type of file. This is something optional. We are marking it as internal, and this is important because it is going to identify the docuref, the attachment, as a product image. And there is another, is the default one. Yeah, here says default image, and if you put yes, we will say later that in the release product form, you can see the image on the right side because it's the default one. In this case, if we send several images one by one, the last one is going to be always the default. But you can develop, I don't know, for example, in Power Apps, you can take a lot of photos and save it in a gallery, and then select the default one and send all of them to Power Automate. And I think that's all. So I'm going to try to share my screen from the phone, so we can see the application working.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Compartir pantalla. Okay. Yeah. So here we are. Here is the Power Apps app. And where is the app? Ah, here. Okay. And this is the application we have created. So, oh, there is a new version. Okay. I hope it works, the new one. So here we can select the data area ID of FNO, the company. I cannot. What? So I'm going to select the USMF company, is a Contoso company, then continue. And now we are getting all the info of the products. Well, not all, but the name, the product ID, and so on, of the product that we have in this specific company. Then we can select a product. For example, this one, the M0018, and here is the camera, so we can take a photo to the product. And the last step would be to send it to Power Automate. So let's send it. Okay, that's all. So now I'm going to share my screen from the computer again. And if everything works as it should,
it will work.
It has worked minutes ago, but I don't know now.
It wouldn't be the first session that our demo fails. After preparing it and making it work, then when you go live,
sorry.
fails.
Here. Okay. Yeah, this one.
I don't know if you're not sharing your screen.
No? Okay.
At least I don't see it.
And now? Can people see my screen? Yeah? Okay, great. So this is the execution of the Power Automate that I've learned from the Power App. This is the data we have sent to the Power App. So here is, well, it's quite big because of the JSON of the image, but we can see here the company. We can see here, of course, the image, and here is the product. I don't know where. Yeah, and the product we are working with. Here is the variables and so on. And after all this data treatment, I don't know if they would work. We have created a new file, a new record in the document attachment, and we are going to see it now. So we are here in the USMF company. That is the company we have selected on the Power App. And now we can go to product information management and to release products.
Yes.
Data management.
You need to reload, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you are in the dual write screen, yeah, going to another form fails. It's a bug or is it a feature?
By design. So we go to release products. And let's see the M18. Here is, and here is the image we have sent right now. We can see all the info of the image here. Here is, it has been created right now. In Spain is this time. And one good thing with this is that if you are working with the warehouse management application, for example, you can see as well the photo, the image of the product inside of your warehouse management app. So the worker can see the photo we have taken and sent from here. And I think that's all from our side.
Yes.
Something else, Adri, to add?
Well, as we said earlier when talking about dual write and virtual entities, before throwing yourself into using one of them, you need to, of course, analyze what do you really need. If you are just accessing data with a low volume, or as Juan said, if you are loading a lot of records, for example,
you have to think about license.
Yeah, not only the license, but on the volume. If you have like 1 million released products, it's better to set up dual write and have the data replicated in Dataverse, because then it will load faster, and not just faster, but it will load on the products instead of just, I think it was 2000. With virtual entities, there is a limit, I think, on the collection or in the Power App.
Is regarding the delegation, because you can, I think, but by default you can load 500, but you can put the limit on 2000. But if you have more than 2000, as virtual entities don't delegate on the data source, you cannot do a proper filter, because you are going to have the first 500 or 2000 records and then apply the formula to that specific data set.
Then set up dual write and filter on the Dataverse entity instead of the virtual entity for FNO.
Yeah.
And this is another example of the things, the way things are turning, because I love being an X++ developer, but little by little we are doing more things with the Power Platform. For example, since we are using or working with a new infrastructure. It's not that new anymore. It's the new container infrastructure for sandbox environments. There's some issues with FTP servers because maybe the authentication call to the FTP server is done via one IP, but then there's another IP trying to access to get the files up to the FTP. So Microsoft said, okay, stop accessing FTP servers via X++ code. What you need to do is create a logic app and access the FTP from there. And little by little, we have these tools, and not only the Power Platform, but also Azure. Azure is a nice thing to use. Azure Functions, API management, the blob storage for storing files in the database makes no sense. So if you want to store something, create a blob storage and put it there. So we've got other tools, and we need to get outside of X++. Even if we have to learn new things, but I think that learning new things is nice. Otherwise, I'd be still working with Axapta 3. And well, I don't know if there is any question. I haven't checked the chat. No.
Thank you, Juan. And Adria, that's really great. Really great to see you. I'm showing how you constructed that Power App. Whilst we wait for questions, I'm sure a lot of people are actually interested in creating Power Apps for F&O. So while we wait for any questions in relation to that, I think the obvious question would be for organizations that haven't yet enabled your right. What would you advise on them when it comes to using Power Apps, but they haven't enabled your right yet?
Well, if they don't really need dual right to use Power Apps or to create Power Apps that get data from the ERP. So one way is, of course, using dual right, but the other one are virtual entities. The thing is that the setup needed to use the virtual entities is more or less the same as the one needed for dual right, but then dual right has an additional setup, which are the table mappings that Juan showed before. And the virtual entities, you just need to enable them on the advanced find form on CRM. And well, if companies still haven't set up dual right or virtual entities, my suggestion would be to try it on a development environment, because you can set up both dual right and virtual entities on a F&O development environment. Deploy a new one, deploy a Dataverse environment, link them, and just play with it. And if you really need to implement any of those, as we were saying before, plan on what you really need. Plan if you are fine just with virtual entities, you will solve your requirements, you will cover them. And if you don't, use dual right.
And one thing used to be important for our customer to decide if they want to work with dual right or virtual entities is, for example, that if you want to work with F&O data through virtual entities, the user that is working on CRM must be working on F&O. I mean, you need to have license in CRM and in F&O, because it's the same user, the one that is creating the data. So if you need, for example, you have your salesperson and you want to create an application to see the sales orders, for example, and you have a lot of salesperson working on it, maybe it's going to be expensive to have working with virtual entities, because you have to put them in CRM and in F&O with the license of both. And if you do it with dual write, you are going to have the data separated, so you can see the data on Dataverse, but you have to take in account, of course, the storage, because you are going probably to pay a little bit more for the data storage if it grows a lot.
Great stuff. Okay, any other questions around the Power App? Any other questions around creating Power Apps for F&O? Before we move on to our keynote session, any other questions? We've got a few more minutes left to address any other questions in relation to creating Power Apps for F&O. I'm sure there's many questions because
well, if in any other moment somebody has any doubt, we are available always in Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever.
Excellent.
So do not hesitate in contacting us.
So if you could also share your contact details in the chat so that people can connect, that'd be really helpful. Yeah.
Without the dot, sorry. And if somebody wants to learn Spanish,
that's a good one, isn't it? You learn Spanish and Power Apps at the same time.
Yeah. Here is the web of our podcast, so you can hear us.
Excellent. So there you have it, xpp.dev.
Yeah.
Then you got your Twitter as well and LinkedIn. Fantastic. Okay. So last chance to ask any questions to Juan or Adria in relation to obviously developing Power Apps for F&O. We will begin the next.
Hope to see somebody of you in Scotland next summer.
Oh, will you be coming to Scotland?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, when is that summit?
The Scottish summit is in, I think it's the 9th or 10th of June.
Hi, Sahib.
Yeah, I was asking when is the summit in Edinburgh? They're coming up. The Scottish summit.
In June.
In June, okay.
Will you be, Sahib? Will you be meeting Juan and Adria in Scotland?
Yeah, I'll be showing them a couple of places around.
That'd be great.
That's nice.
Okay.
We need to be fresh for our session. I don't remember which day it was.
On Saturday, I think.
Okay, we actually do have a question here from Ethan. He's saying, do we need to worry about the Power Apps connector being tied to a user's account?
I would recommend not to use the Power App connector and use dual write or virtual entities. I don't have info, but I think in the future you're going to be deprecated this connector because virtual entities are more powerful than the connector, and to use the connector you also need the license on F&O.
Oh, that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point that you mentioned there, Juan, about the native Power Apps connector for F&O and the licensing consideration.
Because one of the different the big difference between the standard connector with virtual entities is the company. Because if you use the standard connector, you just can to go to the data of the company that the user has set up on the user options. But with virtual entity, you are going to get all the data and you can filter it by company or by whatever. So I would recommend to use virtual entities instead of the connector.
Wow, so that's an important bit of information for everyone here, actually. to really understand, you know, some of the limitations with the native Power App connector. And as you mentioned, as Juan mentioned, there's licensing considerations, there's accessibility and security problems as well, isn't there? That you'd have, because as you know, F&O has very complex security mechanics. So if you're trying to build a Power App, you'd have obviously constraints. So it all makes sense as to why Juan and Adria have actually built the Power App in this particular way to overcome some of those challenges. So that actually really definitely makes a lot more sense. Okay. Excellent. So we're getting a lot of great feedback, guys. Great presentation from Paula and from Lilian. Gracias, ambos, Adria, Juan Antonio. So yeah, some great feedback there. Okay, we've got time for one or two more questions. So Pawan is asking, can a Power App be used for transferring files to third-party FTP? Example, custom Excel report.
I think this question is for somebody expert in Power Apps, not for us.
Maybe using triggering a flow or a Power Automate, and with an FTP connector in the Power Automate. But I don't think that on the Power App itself it can be done.
Okay, yeah. So I agree that question is more specific to Power Apps versus Power Apps with F&O. In fact, that actually leads me to a great point. And we do actually have our next event that's happening next month is actually the Power Apps Developer Bootcamp. So we do have a 3-day bootcamp next month dedicated to Power Apps development. So we're covering everything from Canvas apps, model-driven apps, PCF controls, as well as Power App portals. So it's going to be a huge event. It's next month. So make sure you attend that if you want to learn about generic Power Apps versus obviously the scenario that Juan and Adria have shown here. Look, Adria and Juan, it's always a great pleasure to host you. I know you're very humble about your English, but your English is actually very good, and so I applaud you all. Huge congratulations to you both for for delivering this session in another language. So everyone, a round of applause for obviously Juan and for Adria. For obviously delivering this obviously in their a different language, and I learned a lot as well from this session myself, to be honest. So a big huge thanks, guys, and we really hope to see you soon in person. You're doing a fantastic work around F&O development, so big thanks once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Always a great pleasure to